The problem of divine hiddenness. Is God really real? Is what it boils down to. Is Jesus really real? Or are there psychological, coincidental, an array of variables that are happening to give the appearance that God is real? Because this makes sense if, just is God or is God real but playing fast and loose with the sons of men, being capricious, picking and choosing, playing favorites, all in the name of his sovereignty, his right. God does not owe anyone salvation. We all deserve to be sent to the lake of fire forever. And if God saves us, he's doing us a favor. Instead of God saving us because he really loves us. Or is God choosing to love some but not others? If so, I curse this God and the throne he sits on. Listen.
What you used to be.
This is Howard Storm. He was an atheist. He had a near-death experience. He found Jesus. Listen to what he says.
Was someone that would have tuned into a program like this and said, okay, everyone in the audience, that's all, made up.
This is what Howard Storm might have thought when he was an atheist. And this man is asking him this question.
These stories are made up. You're trying to get ratings. Is that how you would have perceived it, or would you have just said everyone on that set and everyone in that studio are crazy? How would you have perceived this program?
I know that there is an interest in God in everyone, even if they say they don't believe in God.
Even with you?
Yeah.
Before the event?
And there's a battle going on, raging on inside of them. But I want to say something in response to this. Don't believe you, don't believe Don, don't believe me, don't believe TBN, don't believe the church. Go to the source.
Listen.
If you go to the source, if you say, Jesus, I need you. I've never believed in you, and I don't know if you're real, but Jesus, I need to know if you're real. Will you
I've been doing that.
Come into my life. If you do that, and if you mean it from your heart, and if you sit there and wait, and don't get all frustrated and get impatient, stuff like that, but just say, Jesus, Jesus, please come into my life. I've been a rotten person. And I don't know why you touch a piece of filth like me, but please, Jesus, come into my life.
Listen.
Which is what I did. He will come.
So, you hear all these beautiful stories about people who did this. And God came. Well, what about the stories about people who did this and God just sat on the throne twiddling his thumbs, looking at him, laughed at him? I'm not going to come to him. What about people like that? If Jesus is really real, why does he not come to 100% of those who seek him? Unless he's playing fast and loose, unless the hyper-Calvinists are real or true. Some people can't get saved no matter how bad they want to be, because God just did not elect for them to get saved, you see. Listen to this man.
Nothing. I don't choose to disbelieve in God any more than I choose to disbelieve in aliens.
Listen.
Despite how much I might want them to. So when faced with a psalm like Psalm 139, I'm overwhelmed with a sense not of beauty and consolation, but envy and disappointment. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? Where can I go, I should ask in response, to find it? Of course, you cannot know my heart. You can't know if I'm truly as non-resistant as I claim, but I hope that my actions here might betray me. As a Catholic child, I was once an altar boy. I would serve the altar of Mother Church every Sunday, dressed in a white robe. In the time since then, I have, to put it mildly, been looking for God. I went to Catholic schools, I studied philosophy and theology at A-levels. I made a career out of engaging with religious arguments. I've explored arguments from contingency, from fine-tuning, from motion, from mathematics, from irreducible complexity and the alleged resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth. It may surprise my followers online to learn that at university I visited numerous churches on the invitation of various friends. I spent hours talking with religious friends until the sun rose again, if you like. I attended Bible groups regularly too, which might surprise people as well, and in fact I still do attend such groups. Just recently I agreed to embark on a series of study of the wisdom literature, specifically reading it again in the hopes that this time I might finally feel a divine presence seeping from between the lines.
Listen.
I moved into a house for a year with 2 devoutly Christian housemates with the express intention of seeing if the obvious truth of Christianity and theism that people like to talk about can be found in the minutiae of daily life. I have looked, in other words, in a great deal of places. I read Athanasius and Anselm. I read Augustine and Aquinas. I looked in Julian of Norwich and Catherine of Siena. I looked at the sociological origin of religious belief in Durkheim and Marx and Freud and Jung. I looked at religious experience in William James and Rudolf Otto. I've looked in the modern works of people like Ed Feser and Bill Craig and Michael Murray and Richard Swinburne and Alvin Plantinga. I've looked in poetry. I've looked in the Psalms. I've looked in Job. I've looked in Ecclesiastes. I've looked in Dostoevsky. I read C.S. Lewis. I listened to worship music. I prayed. I studied the gospel. I even got an actual degree in theology from a university. And nothing. Not...
God, I curse you for this. I curse you. Now some would say, all these people didn't see, keep knocking. You gotta keep knocking till God answers. But what if they, like this man, they keep looking for God, and they die, and God still hasn't revealed himself to them, and they die and go to hell. God, I curse the throne you sit on for this. Are you real? Are you even real? Because if you're real, why? If you're real, God, you would be God enough to come to 100% of the people who try to find you, not just a select number who are psychologically primed with all the and not just you come to those, even those whose the variables are not lined up perfectly for them to have a God experience. You get what I'm trying to say? If you're real, God, until I know you're real, I curse you. I curse you. I curse the Holy Ghost. I cannot stop believing in Jesus. I can't. But is this because of God's Spirit, or is this because all the variables in my life are lined up in a certain way? Whereas in another person's life, he might believe in God and Jesus and feel attached to Jesus, but eventually be able to detach himself from Jesus because the variables were lined another way, a different way than they're aligned for me.
Not once.
That's for you, God. Your face.
Not nearly, not ever, not even briefly have I experienced anything that speaks to the existence of a God in the universe.
And by the way, if you have ulterior motives, tell God. Just be truthful to God. Tell God, hey, I want to know if you're real, but I want to still continue in this sin. I know it's wrong. You're gonna have to do something because I can't. If that's what's holding, but I can show you a story about a man who had no sin holding him back from serving the Lord. He sought the Lord, and God literally led him into the wolf pack and abandoned him. Jesus literally let the wolves get the sheep. I'll put the video in the description.
I think it's asking a lot of any atheist to seriously engage with a religion
Enough of that fucking shit. Holy Ghost.